What we do has been best described years ago by, I believe, a physician explaining how an EEG works. And it was something to the effect of, it's like standing outside of a stadium, listening to the crowd, and trying to guess what the score is. That's kind of what we're doing right now. We're standing outside and we're listening to what's happening, and we're watching, and we're taking into account history, law enforcement, and trying to blend the two, read between the lines, try to discard the usual nonsense, and figure out, why is it that this is happening now, and what does it mean? For the longest time, the federal government has been, and it has been posited, and I believe there's a degree of truth to this, but the federal government has been brutally unconcerned with the black community and with certain communities in general. It has been estimated, it has been suggested that we could have done a lot more when it comes to trying to stop and do something about the AIDS epidemic. Some have suggested that the CIA or Intel created AIDS. I don't want to go there. I have no evidence of that. But it's a fascinating issue. And there's also been the suggestion that the federal government could stop the feds. The feds could stop the Crips and the Bloods. I mean, how difficult is this? It pretty much was centered in one area called Compton. A huge dent could have been made in targeting them, in targeting these folks. But nothing was done. It was almost as though the feds were saying, let them kill each other. Not to mention the money they were making. It is always believed, a tad conspiratorial, but not necessarily far-fetched, the money that the government was making by virtue of all of the cocaine sales and the like. So you think about this, if you look what's going on here, and you ask yourself the question, how is it that these folks, that these people, that these seeming Wild West characters have been going on for so long, thumbing their nose at the system and getting away with it? Unless the government looked the other way. Unless the government said, we really don't matter whether you kill yourself. Unless the worst suspicions are true, that the federal government did nothing in any way to prevent, to stop, to interrupt this obvious lawlessness. Okay, so now we have Diddy. For the longest time, everything was fine in the black music community, all right? There was R&B, of course, was owned and operated, many suspect, by the mob. The mob was actively involved in that. Black artists were the victims of predatory publishing contracts and the like. That's the way it goes. Not just black folks, but others as well. Hip-hop came along, delightful, Sugar Hill Gang, it was wonderful, everything was great. Then something happened, right around gangster rap, right around NWA and F the Police, and then it took on a very ominous tone. And then the theme was that these folks were money-making, grabbing, gold watch, platinum watches, crystal drinking, conspicuously rich, conspicuously wealthy, basically telling the feds, come on, come after us. I dare you. And that's what is strongly suspected as having occurred. Now, for the longest time, also remember, the federal government will hit a point where they say, all right, that's it. They went after the mob basically right after RICO came along with Blakey and the racketeering statute. They still have not done anything substantially to stop Albanian mobs, Chinese triads, Russian mobs. They're still here. But they didn't get the headlines, but they're still here. They're still a part of our organized crime landscape. Absolutely. Well, what happened? Again, it's hard to say, but right now it is clear And many suspect that the reason why Diddy is charged is for him to take the fall, for him to be crushed, so that the public will say, okay, you cleaned up hip-hop, let's move on. When in fact there is a superstructure here, not necessarily that's criminally nefarious, but a superstructure involving people in the entertainment business like Oprah and Tyler Perry and Steve Harvey and others who are a part of this, almost like the cabal, the consortium, the chosen few, the high priest and priestesses of this thing. It's interesting. Again, not to suggest they're involved in this, but there's a lot of folks who want this investigation and this to be quashed, to move on. Let me give you an example. Do you remember a while back when we talked about multiple, polygamy in certain religious sects and the like? Remember that? Religious cults, NXIVM and others. Those haven't gotten any better. We just moved along. If all of a sudden, let's assume there was a Mormon murder, polygamy, let's assume, again, all of a sudden, overnight, the country would be absorbed in this new discovery, which was there the whole time, polygamy. What's being done to protect people, etc., etc., etc. When in fact nothing's being done. So they want to quash this. There are people out there making millions. Remember one thing about the federal government also. It has been suggested, irrespective of the administration, Democrat, Republican, but it has been suggested that organized crime could be stopped if the federal government wanted to stop it, but that organized crime serves a purpose in which they are, for lack of a better word, where they are positioned and targeted and, what am I trying to say? Where certain groups of people actually benefit the government. A wise guy one time said to me that, they could stop us if they wanted to, especially when it comes to LCN and, Cosa Nostra and Mafia and all that. Everybody knows who these people are. Hell, they're doing podcasts right now. They could stop us if they wanted, but they don't. And they don't. And they don't care. And they're not interested in this. Because if it seems like it was this position that the government wants to maintain the channels, maintain these superstructures, whether you're motorcycle gangs, triads, whether you're into labor trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking, LCN, money laundering, they want this activity to occur so that they can take a cut. It was suggested. I'm not saying that, but it was suggested. And also that these units and these systems and these networks could be used ultimately by the government as well. As he said, they want to put their blood in our veins. They want to use our connectivity for their own benefit. Think about this. It's a fabulously interesting and most intriguing theory. So we're going to be talking more about that. The legal aspects of this, the prosecution. I ask you to please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. We appreciate you helping us develop it and grow it. Please like the video so that we'll be benefited as well from the algorithms and the like. And as we always do, we ask you to comment as you see fit.